Also, the birth of female children was covered in Islam. According to Islam, the female child is not a matter of shame. It's a blessing. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, whoever does good to a girl child, it will be a curtain to him from hell. Another time he said, whosoever cares for two girls till they come of age shall be in the next world with me like two fingers close to each other. Whosoever has a daughter and does not bury her alive, nor scold her, nor show partiality to his other male children, God shall bring him into paradise. Islam also dealt with another thing that's been a problem for women. That's the guilt for the original sin. After all, it was Pandora that opened the box that let evil onto the earth, and it was Eve who forced that fateful apple into Adam's mouth. But in the Quran, it says both were tempted, both sinned, both repented, and both were forgiven. Some people think that the man may be held slightly more responsible for original sin because the man is also given a degree of responsibility for the woman, where the woman has no responsibility for the man's actions. Women were also given, over 1,400 years ago, the right to own her own property and to conduct her own affairs. Now remember, the Quran is over 1,400 years old. In 1870, Great Britain shocked the rest of the world by passing the Married Women's Property Act. The law gave only limited property rights to women, but it was considered quite scandalous at the time. That was only the beginning of women's property rights. Even here in this country, there are some areas where women do not have full property rights. Last year when I was in Virginia, I was talking with an elderly lady whose husband passed away, and she was trying to sell her house and could not because of a law that was on the book that said her husband or other male family member had to sign the papers, and every male family member she had was dead. And she was stuck with this house and she wanted to sell it. According to Islam, we have full control over whatever we own and full right to acquire whatever we desire. There's no limitations on us at all. And what we own does not require any permission from our husbands to use or dispose of. We also have the right to conduct our own businesses. In fact, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ worked for a woman who later became his wife. It was Khadija who owned the trading company that he went to work for when he was 20 years of age. That set two examples. Number one, that it was acceptable for a man to work for a woman. And number two, that it was acceptable for a woman to own a business and conduct her own affairs in that business. Also in Islam, women were for the first time given the right to witness contracts. Now it's true that in some cases in Islam it requires two women to one man, but this is only in certain contracts where it involves the borrowing and loaning of money. There are other instances where a woman's witness alone is enough, and there is one instance where a woman's witness is more powerful than a man's witness. The rights of women didn't stop here. The previously mentioned rights were then secured and expanded by granting women the right to education. Not just the right to education. Women were ordered to be educated. We were told to go to the ends of the earth if necessary. Slaves could be freed for teaching a woman how to read and write. It wasn't a matter of just men. It was for women too. The education of the women may well have been a factor in the number of women in early Islamic history who became known as distinguished scholars. Amongst those are Hafsa, the daughter of Omar, who was known as the keeper of the Quran; Aisha, daughter of Abu Bakr, who is well known for a memory like a tape recorder and reported the most hadiths of anyone. She also wrote many scholarly works on history and on Islamic law. But along with the right for education, we were given the right to express ourselves. We were given a right to voice our opinions and our ideas and our feelings in public. On one occasion, Omar, and for those of you who don't know about Omar was one very tough man. He was well known to have a quick temper and a very strong nature, and he wasn't the kind of a person that anybody really cared to cross. But there was one occasion where he was suggesting that a law be passed, and a woman stood up and continued to disagree with him until finally he stood and said, a woman is right and Omar is wrong. So even right after the death of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we could stand before the Caliph, the ruler, and disagree and express our opinion and have no fear. Our opinion was taken for what it was, and it didn't matter whether we were male or female. Judgment was judgment. Islam, as a legal system, also dealt with the issue of inheritance. Now, inheritance has been a problem over all years and is still a problem in this country especially. You watch families totally torn apart because they can't decide what's going to be done with an inheritance. The first thing Islam did was classify inheritance. And inheritance is not something you have earned. Inheritance is something that has been given to you. It's a kind of a charity. Now in Islam, the woman has no financial obligations. Even in the worst of times, she has no financial obligations. If she has a job, she does not have to use that money to support herself. Her father is responsible, her brothers are responsible, her uncles are responsible. If there are no male relatives, the society is responsible. The man, on the other hand, has an almost unlimited degree of responsibility. He's responsible for his wife and for his children. He's responsible for his parents, for his brothers, for his sisters. He's responsible for the parents of his wife. He's responsible for aunts and uncles. He's responsible for any of the poor and needy in his community, and it goes on and it goes on and it goes on. So if a charity is to be given, it should go where it would be most needed, and that would be the man, because he has the greater stress placed on him financially. The thing that is quite remarkable, and everyone keeps passing by, is the fact that woman was guaranteed a part of inheritance. There are still many legal systems where all inheritance goes to the firstborn son, or this or that. But this was the first, and is still the only one that states absolutely how much she's going to get. And it goes beyond that because it keeps the family from being torn apart by arguing over who's going to get how much. It's settled, it's resolved, there's nothing to discuss. And it's a great burden that is relieved from all of society for this. Okay, now we move on into marriage. In the process of getting married, it's very true that the families on both sides are very involved in the marriage. They do a great deal of work finding people that they think are suitable for their son or for their daughter. But this in no way means that the daughter is bought or sold, or that marriage is done without permission. A couple cannot be married unless they agree to the marriage. This is Islamic law now. Okay?